Commander Kim Tae-ho walked through the dark corridors of the secret base hidden deep beneath the moon's surface. His boots made soft clicking sounds on the metal floor as he moved toward the main control room. The base had been built incomplete. Secrecy over the past 30 years. Not even Earth's surface governments knew about its true purpose. The heavy doors slid open with a quiet hiss, revealing a massive room filled with glowing screens and complex equipment. Dozens of people in military uniforms worked at their stations, their faces lit by the blue light from their displays. The air hummed with the sound of powerful computers processing vast amounts of information. "They're coming," said Lieutenant Park Soyoung, looking up from her console. Her voice was calm, but Kim could see the tension in her shoulders. "The alien fleet will reach Earth's orbit in 6 hours." Kim nodded and walked over to the central holographic display. The image showed space around Earth, with hundreds of red dots moving steadily toward their home planet. A Zephyrian warship, part of an alien empire that had destroyed nearly 1,000 worlds across the galaxy. "How many ships?" Kim asked. 237 vessels, Park replied. "It's a standard invasion force for them. They clearly don't think we're worth sending their main fleet." Kim allowed himself a small smile. The Zephyrians had made the same mistake that every other aggressive species made when they first encountered humanity. They looked at Earth's surface and saw a weak, divided planet with primitive technology. They saw nations fighting each other, basic rockets that barely reached their own moon, and weapons that seemed laughably simple compared to their own advanced arsenal. "What are our surface governments doing?" Kim asked. "Exactly what we planned," Park said, pressing a few buttons on her console. "The President of the United States is calling for emergency meetings. The European Union is broadcasting panic messages. China is moving their military forces, but making sure the aliens can see everything they're doing. Everyone is playing their part perfectly." Kim walked to another station where Sergeant Lee Dong-min was monitoring the fake signals they were sending. To the approaching alien fleet, the young soldier's job was to make sure the Zephyrians saw exactly what humanity wanted them to see. "Status report," Kim said. "All deception systems are working perfectly, sir," Lee replied. "Their sensors are picking up our fake energy signatures. They think our most powerful weapons are simple nuclear missiles. They believe our fastest ships can barely reach half the speed of light. As far as they know, we're just another primitive species waiting to be conquered." Kim nodded with satisfaction. The deception had taken decades to perfect. Every piece of technology that humanity showed to the galaxy was carefully designed to appear weak and outdated. Their real weapons, their true ships. Their actual capabilities remained hidden beneath layers of false information and carefully staged weakness. In the deepest part of the lunar facility, Dr. Lee Menesio worked alone in a room filled with massive machines that hummed with barely contained power. She was one of only 12 people in the entire solar system who understood how the antimatter generators actually worked. The technology was so advanced that it seemed almost like magic, even to the scientists who had spent their entire careers developing it. "Generator status," Kim asked through the communication system. "All systems running at optimal levels," Dr. Lee replied. "We have enough stored antimatter to power our defenses for 6 months of continuous combat. The quantum field generators are ready to activate on your command." Kim felt a deep sense of satisfaction. The Zephyrians had conquered 847 worlds by following the same pattern every time. They would arrive with overwhelming force, demand immediate surrender, and then destroy anyone who resisted. It was a simple strategy that had worked for them for over 3 centuries, but Earth was not like the other worlds they had conquered. While the Zephyrians had been busy expanding their empire, humanity had been quietly developing technology that would have impressed even the most advanced civilizations in the galaxy. They had learned to harness the power of antimatter, to manipulate quantum fields, and to create weapons that could tear apart the very fabric of space itself. Sir Park called out, "We're receiving the standard Zephyrian ultimatum." Kim walked over to her station and listened as the alien message played through the speakers. The voice was cold and mechanical, translated by their computers into perfect English. "People of Earth," the message began, "you will surrender all planetary resources and submit to immediate slavery. You have 72 hours to comply, or we will demonstrate the fate of those who resist the collective. Listen to the entire message without showing any emotion. He had heard recordings of similar ultimatums that had been sent to dozens of other worlds. The Zephyrians never changed their approach, because they had never needed to. Send the response, Kim ordered. Park pressed a button. An Earth's official reply was transmitted to the alien fleet. It was a message of terror and pleading, begging for mercy and offering to negotiate. The surface governments sounded desperate and afraid, exactly as they were supposed to sound, but beneath the moon's surface, in the hidden facility that the Zephyrians could never detect, humanity's true military prepared for war. The aliens thought they were facing a weak, primitive species. They had no idea that they were about to encounter the most dangerous predator the galaxy had ever seen. Admiral Yoon Jae-soon floated in the command center of the Silent Thunder, a massive ship that looked like nothing more than twisted metal and broken machinery from the outside. The vessel had been carefully designed to appear as space junk, one of thousands of pieces of debris floating in the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter. Alien scanner would give it a second look. The bridge was dark and quiet, with only the soft glow of computer screens providing light. Yoon had been waiting in this position for over 2 years, commanding a fleet of ships that the galaxy believed did not exist. Every vessel in his command was disguised as something harmless. Old mining equipment, abandoned satellites, or chunks of rock that had broken off from asteroids. Sir, incoming transmission from the Zephyrian fleet, announced communications. Officer Han Do-yoon from her station. Her voice was steady, but Yoon could see her hand shaking slightly as she worked her controls. Put it through, Yoon ordered. The alien voice filled the bridge, cold and mechanical. The translation software turned the strange clicking sounds into perfect Korean, but the arrogance in the tone needed no translation. People of Earth, you will surrender all planetary resources and submit to immediate enslavement. You have 72 hours to comply, or we will demonstrate the fate of those who resist the collective. Yoon had heard these exact words before. The Zephyrians used the same ultimatum on every world they conquered. It was efficient, simple, and had worked perfectly for over 300 years. They saw no reason to change their approach now. Are they going to give us their usual demonstration? Yoon asked. Yes, sir, replied Sensor Officer Park Woo-jin. We're targeting Jupiter's moons. Looks like they're going after Himalaya, Lysithea, and Alara. Yoon nodded. The Zephyrians always destroyed something visible to show their power, wanted their victims to see exactly what would happen if they refused to surrender. What they did not know was that those 3 small moons were not empty rocks floating in space. All stations, prepare for data collection, Yoon ordered. This is our chance to learn everything we can about their weapons. The bridge crew worked quickly at their stations, activating sensors and recording equipment that had been hidden inside. The moons, for over a decade, technology was so advanced that it could analyze every detail of the Zephyrian attack. From the energy signatures of their weapons to the structure of their ships, on the main screen, Yoon watched as bright flashes of light appeared near Jupiter. The Zephyrians fired their weapons with casual precision, completely destroying the 3 moons in less than 30 seconds. The aliens probably thought they were showing off their power to a primitive species that had never seen such destruction. Data. Collection complete, Park reported. We got everything, sir. Complete scans of their weapon systems, shield frequencies, and hull composition. The information is already being transmitted to all our hidden bases. Yoon felt a surge of satisfaction. The Zephyrians had just given humanity exactly what they needed to defeat them. The aliens thought they were demonstrating their overwhelming power, but they had actually handed over the keys to their own destruction. Sir Hun called out, Earth's surface governments are responding to the ultimatum. Yoon listened as the official response played through the bridge speakers. The President of the United States sounded terrified as he begged for mercy. The leaders of other nations were calling for negotiations, offering to discuss terms of surrender. Every word was carefully planned to make the Zephyrians believe that humanity was weak and desperate. Perfect, Yoon said quietly. They're completely convinced that we're helpless. But beneath the surface of this apparent weakness, humanity's true military was moving into position. Across the solar system, Ships that had been hidden for decades were quietly powering up their weapons. Soldiers who had trained in secret for their entire lives were preparing for the fight of their careers. Sirhan said, "We're receiving reports from our agents throughout the galaxy." Yoon had almost forgotten about the sleeper agents. For over 40 years, humanity had been secretly placing spies throughout Zephyrian space. These agents had spent decades building false identities, getting jobs with alien corporations, and slowly working their way into positions where they could do real damage. Agent Choi Hae-on-woo is reporting from the supply depot at Kepler 442. Han continued. He successfully infiltrated their ammunition storage facility. Agent Omire has begun sabotage operations on their secondary fleet at the Proxima Centauri station. Yoon smiled. The Zephyrians had no idea that their own empire was full of human spies. While they were focused on conquering Earth, their supply lines were being quietly destroyed by people they trusted. "How many agents do we have active?" Yoon asked. 47 confirmed, Sirhan replied. They're spread across 12 different star systems. All of them are in positions where they can cause significant damage to Zephyrian operations. Yoon nodded with satisfaction. The aliens thought they were facing a single weak planet. Had no idea that humanity had been preparing for this war for decades, placing assets throughout their empire and building weapons that could challenge their technological superiority. "Sir," Park called out, "the Zephyrian fleet is moving into attack position. They're expecting us to surrender within the next 72 hours. Yoon looked at the tactical display, watching as the alien ships arranged themselves around Earth like predators surrounding wounded prey. The Zephyrians were confident, arrogant, and completely unprepared for what was coming. "Let them wait," Yoon said quietly. "They want to see Earth's weakness. We'll give them exactly what they expect, right up until the moment we show them what human beings are really capable of." The countdown had begun, and humanity was ready. Captain Lim Dong-haen stood on the bridge of the Shadow Strike, his hands gripping the rail as he watched the countdown timer on the main screen. 72 hours had passed since the Zephyrians delivered their ultimatum. Earth's surface governments had spent that time sending desperate messages, begging for mercy and more time to consider surrender. The Zephyrian fleet hung in space. Above Earth, like a collection of deadly metal sharks, their weapons trained on the planet below. The alien commanders were probably feeling very satisfied with themselves, believing they had terrorized another primitive species into submission. "Sir," whispered his communications officer, "Admiral Yoon is about to give the signal." Lim nodded, his heart beating faster despite all his years of training. This was the moment that would determine whether humanity survived or joined the long list of conquered worlds in the Zephyrian Empire throughout the solar system. Hundreds of objects that had been floating silently in space for years suddenly came alive. What the Zephyrians had dismissed as asteroids, space junk, and mining equipment began to glow with internal power. Massive engines that had been hidden for decades roared to life, and weapon systems that represented the pinnacle of human engineering started charging their deadly payloads. "All units, this is Admiral Yoon. Execute protocol revelation." The words echoed through every human ship in the solar system, and suddenly space erupted with activity. Cloaking fields that had hidden an entire fleet shimmered and disappeared, revealing sleek warships that looked nothing like the primitive vessels. The Zephyrians expected to find. Lim watched his tactical display as hundreds of red dots suddenly appeared around the Zephyrian fleet. The aliens had thought they were surrounding a helpless planet, but they had actually flown into the middle of humanity's greatest military force. "Sir," called out his sensor officer, "the Zephyrians are trying to scan our ships. Their computers can't identify our technology." Lim smiled grimly. The aliens were about to learn that their intelligence about human capabilities was completely wrong. Every piece of information they had gathered about Earth's military strength had been carefully fabricated to make humanity appear weak and backward. Aboard the flagship Hidden Dragon, Admiral Yoon stood calmly in the center of his command bridge. As reports flooded in from across the fleet, his ship was the size of a small city, bristling with weapons that could tear apart matter at the atomic level. "Sir," reported Weapons Officer Kong Degin, "quantum torpedoes are armed and ready. All ships are reporting weapons systems online." Target their command vessel, Yoon ordered. Let's show them what human engineering can really do. The first attack was devastating. Humanity's quantum torpedoes moved through space at nearly the speed of light. Their warheads designed to disrupt the fundamental forces that held matter together. When they struck the Zephyrian command ship, the alien vessel's shields flickered and died within seconds. The Zephyrian captain probably had just enough time to feel confused before his ship was torn apart at the molecular level. The massive warship simply came apart like a puzzle being taken apart, its hull plating dissolving into clouds of individual atoms. Direct hit, Kong reported.
Ow.
Their command ship is completely destroyed. But the quantum torpedoes were just the beginning. Humanity had developed weapons that the Zephyrians had never even imagined. Matter disruption beams reduced enemy hull armor to its basic components. Quantum phase missiles passed through conventional shields as if they did not exist at all, striking directly at the ship's vital systems. The Zephyrian fleet tried to fight back, but their weapons were designed to defeat the technology of civilizations they had conquered decades ago. Their energy beams and missile systems were powerful, but they were no match for humanity's advanced defensive systems. "Sir," called out the tactical officer, "enemy return fire is having no effect. Our quantum shields are holding perfectly." Elim watched in amazement as Zephyrian weapons struck human ships and simply disappeared. Their energy absorbed and redirected by defensive systems that manipulated the basic laws of physics. The aliens were fighting with tools from the past against technology from the future. The battle lasted exactly 18 minutes. When it was over, the entire Zephyrian expeditionary force had been destroyed except for one small ship that was trying desperately to escape toward the edge of the solar system. "Sir," reported the weapons officer, "should we destroy the fleeing vessel?" Admiral Yoon considered the question for a long moment. "No," he said finally. "Let them go." Commander Kim Tae-ho, who had been transferred to the flagship for the battle, looked confused. "Sir, why let them escape? They'll report back to their empire about our true capabilities." Yoon's expression was grim as he watched the small Zephyrian ship disappear into hyperspace. "Because that's exactly what I want them to do. The Zephyrians need to know that Earth is not the weak, primitive world they thought it was." "But," Sir Kim protested, "won't that just make them send a larger fleet?" Yoon nodded slowly. "They'll send everything they have, their entire military force will come here to destroy us. Because they can't allow word to spread through the galaxy that a primitive species defeated them." Kim felt a chill run down his spine. "So the real war is just beginning?" "Yes," Yoon replied. "And when they come back, they'll discover that what they saw today was just a small taste of what humanity is truly capable of." Fleet Admiral Beacon-Ho stood on the bridge of the Solar Wrath, the largest warship humanity had ever built. The massive dreadnought was over 3 kilometers long, its hull bristling with weapons that could destroy entire cities with a single shot. Around him, his crew worked at their stations with grim determination, knowing that the fate of their species hung in the balance. 6 months had passed since humanity's first victory over the Zephyrians, and the aliens had not wasted any time preparing their response. The small courier ship that Admiral Yoon had allowed to escape had carried news of Earth's hidden strength back to the Zephyrian High Command, and the alien leaders had been furious. "Sir," reported Commander Song Hiram, "long-range sensors are picking up the enemy fleet. They're coming out of hyperspace at the edge of the solar system." Beak nodded grimly. He had been expecting this moment for months, but seeing it actually happen still sent a chill down his spine. "How many ships?" 10,000 vessels, sir," Song replied, her voice steady, despite the magnitude of what she was reporting. "It's their entire military force. Every ship they have is coming here." Through the massive windows of the bridge, Beak could see the lights of humanity's defensive fleet spread throughout the solar system. What had once been a secret armada was now fully revealed, with ships positioned at every strategic point between the outer planets and Earth itself. The asteroid belt had been transformed into a massive weapons platform, with hidden cannons built into rocks that had been floating in space for millions of years. The gas giant mining stations that had once extracted fuel for Earth's economy were now armed with stellar-class weapons capable of destroying entire fleets. Status of all defensive systems, Beak ordered.
Ow.
All platforms are online and ready. Song reported. The quantum minefields are active throughout the system. Our sleeper ships are positioned behind enemy lines. All ground-based planetary defense systems are fully charged. Beak felt a mixture of pride and fear as he looked at the tactical display. Humanity had spent decades preparing for this moment, building weapons and defenses that pushed the very limits of what was scientifically possible. But even with all their advanced technology, they were still outnumbered by more than 3-1. The Zephyrian fleet approached with the confidence of a species that had conquered nearly 1,000 worlds. Their ships were massive and heavily armed, designed by engineers who had spent centuries perfecting the art of war. Each vessel carried weapons that could reduce planets to ash and shields that had never been penetrated by any enemy they had faced. Sir called out the communications. Officer, the Zephyrians are broadcasting a message. Let's hear it, Beak replied. The alien voice filled the bridge, cold and filled with rage. People of Earth, you have made a grave mistake. Your deception has been discovered, and now you will pay the price for your arrogance. You will not offer. You surrender this time. Your species will be completely destroyed as an example to any other world that dares to resist the collective. Beak listened to the message without showing any emotion. The Zephyrians were clearly angry about being tricked, and they had brought their entire military force to make sure that humanity could not escape their revenge. No ultimatum this time, Song observed. They're not even pretending to offer mercy. They're too proud, Beak replied. It made them look foolish in front of the entire galaxy. Now they have to destroy us completely to restore their reputation. The battle began when the first Zephyrian ships reached the outer edge of the solar system. Humanity's quantum minefields activated, sending waves of destructive energy through space that tore apart dozens of enemy vessels. But the Zephyrians had expected this, and they had brought enough ships to absorb the losses. Chief Engineer Park. Ji-hoon worked frantically at his station as enemy fire began to hammer the Solar Wrath's defenses. The ship's quantum shields flickered and sparked under the incredible bombardment, their energy systems straining to deflect weapons that could level mountains. Shield strength down to 60%, Park reported. The enemy is concentrating their fire on our flagship. Beak watched the tactical display as the battle raged throughout the solar system. Human ships fought with desperate courage, their advanced weapons tearing through Zephyrian formations. But for every alien vessel they destroyed, 2 more took its place. Sir Song called out, "We're losing ships faster than we can replace them. The enemy is overwhelming our defensive positions." Beak felt the weight of command crushing down on him. He had known this moment would come, when humanity's technological advantage would not be enough to overcome the sheer numbers of the Zephyrian fleet. The aliens had brought everything they had, and they were willing to sacrifice half their forces if it meant destroying Earth. Sir, Park reported, "We've lost contact with the Mars defense platform. The asteroid belt weapons grid is down to 30% effectiveness. They're breaking through our outer defenses." Beak closed his eyes for a moment, thinking of all the people on Earth who were counting on him to protect them, children who had never seen war, families who had lived their entire lives believing that humanity was safe among the stars. "Then it's time to show them what human vengeance truly means," he said quietly. "Signal all ships. Prepare for Protocol Starfall." Commander Song looked up in shock. "Sir, that weapon? We've never tested it on this scale. The theoretical calculations suggest it could work, but we have no idea what the actual effects might be." Beak's expression was grim as he stared at the tactical display. The Zephyrians had brought their entire civilization to war against humanity. It was time to show them what happened when they pushed the human species too far. Today we find out. "If it works," he replied, "ready the stellar manipulation array." Dr. Lee Minesio stood in the deepest chamber of the hidden facility on Titan, surrounded by machines that hummed with power beyond imagination. The stellar manipulation device towered above her, like a metal cathedral, its surface covered in equations that only a handful of people in the universe could understand. For 30 years, she had worked on the theoretical mathematics that made this moment possible, but she had never imagined she would actually have to use it. "Final systems check," she announced to her team of 12 scientists, each of them specialists in fields that barely existed when the project began. We have one chance to get this right. The room was filled with the quiet sounds of people working at the very edge of human knowledge. Computer screens displayed readings that showed the quantum entanglement between their device and a star that was 400 light-years away. The mathematics involved were so complex that even the most advanced artificial intelligence systems could barely process them. Dr. Lee called out her assistant, Dr. Kim Jae-won. The quantum field is stable. We have a perfect lock on the target star. Lee nodded and activated the communication system that connected her to the battle raging. Throughout the solar system, the sounds of war filled the laboratory as Admiral Beek's voice crackled through the speakers. Dr. Lee, are you ready to proceed with Protocol Starfall? Target confirmed, Lee announced, her voice steady, despite the magnitude of what she was about to do. The Zephyrian homestar designated Kepler 438. Quantum entanglement with our solar array is stable. She could hear the sound of explosions in the background as the Admiral responded from his flagship. The battle was not going well for humanity, despite all their advanced technology and careful planning. The Zephyrians had brought their entire military force, and they were slowly overwhelming Earth's defenses through sheer numbers. Dr. Lee, are you certain this will work? Lee looked at the readings on her screens, double-checking calculations that she had verified hundreds of times. Over the past 6 months, the mathematics are sound, sir. You can disrupt the nuclear fusion processes in their star instantaneously, regardless of distance. Their sun will begin to dim within hours. The silence that followed was heavy with the weight of what they were discussing. Lee could imagine Admiral Beek on his bridge, surrounded by the chaos of battle, trying to make a decision that would determine the fate of 2 entire civilizations. And the consequences? The Admiral asked finally. Lee closed her eyes for a moment, thinking of all the innocent people who lived in the Zephyrian system. Billions of beings who had never made the decision to attack Earth, who were simply living their lives under the light of a star that humanity was about to extinguish. If we maintain the disruption, their entire system will freeze within weeks, she said quietly. Every planet, every moon, every space station, all of it will become uninhabitable. Their species will have no choice but to abandon their home system or face extinction. The communication channel fell silent as the full meaning of her words sank in. They were not just threatening to destroy a fleet or conquer a planet. They were holding an entire star system hostage, threatening to kill a sun that had been burning for billions of years. Sir, interrupted communications officer Han Dae-yoon from the flagship, were receiving an emergency transmission from the Zephyrian High Command. They're requesting immediate ceasefire negotiations. Lee could hear the surprise in the officer's voice. The Zephyrians had never requested negotiations before. In over 3 centuries of conquest, they had never encountered a species that could threaten their home system. What are they offering? Admiral Beek asked. Complete surrender, sir. They're offering to withdraw all forces from human space and formally recognize Earth's sovereignty. They want to know if we're willing to negotiate. Lee felt a mixture of relief and amazement. The Zephyrians, who had conquered nearly 1,000 worlds, were offering to surrender rather than risk the destruction of their home star. The threat of stellar manipulation had accomplished what no military force had ever been able to do. Admiral Beek's voice was hard as steel when he responded. Tell them they have 1 hour to withdraw all forces from human space and formally recognize Earth's sovereignty. If they refuse, their sun dies, and their species with it. The response came within minutes. Throughout the solar system, the massive Zephyrian fleet began to turn away from Earth, their ships retreating toward the edge of the system. The aliens who had seemed so confident just hours before were now fleeing in panic, unwilling to test humanity's resolve. Sir, reported Dr. Kim, the Zephyrian fleet is withdrawing. All enemy vessels are leaving the solar system. Lee watched her screens as the last alien ship disappeared into hyperspace. The stellar manipulation device powered down, its quantum fields dissipating as the threat to the distant star ended.
Ow.
The Zephyrian sun would continue to burn normally, but the message had been sent. Dr. Lee, Admiral Beek's voice came through the speakers. You can stand down. The threat is over. Lee slumped in her chair, feeling the weight of exhaustion and relief wash over her. They had done it. Humanity had not only survived the Zephyrian attack, but had revealed themselves as the most dangerous species in the galaxy. The age of human weakness was over. No alien empire would ever again mistake Earth for an easy target. They had learned that humanity possessed the power to extinguish stars, that knowledge would spread throughout the galaxy like wildfire. Earth's children would never again have to hide in the shadows, pretending to be weak while preparing for war. The galaxy now knew what humans were truly capable of, and that knowledge would keep them safe among the stars.